bring in Kevin Green, Senior Markets Correspondent, to help set up the action today. All right, KG, let's get right into the moves, especially within the S&P 500, because I know that 6,400 was a level that you were watching. What does this signal falling below 6,400? Is this just about kind of the seasonality that we see?
Yeah, we continue to see a little bit of a stair step to the downside here, but I will have to say, I mean, the recovery that we saw from the lows yesterday for the S&P 500 as well as the Nasdaq was good, right? And today you wanted to actually see, and hopefully we do see more of that recovery here instead of seeing more pressure to the downside. I think that's going to be key. You continue to talk about this rotation, and it continues to take place here. About a month and a half ago, we actually had the same type of situation where we had about 4 days, 5 trading days of this rotation into value out of growth, and then that quickly kind of reset itself. Is that going to be the same thing this time around? I think that remains to be seen here. But obviously, we're going to be focusing on a lot of the economic data that's going to be coming out today from services PMI, from the S&P Global, as well as existing home sales, and some commentary when it comes to the Fed. And then we'll prepare for Jackson Hole tomorrow. I think this is going to be a very interesting market here. We just have to let the price action really kind of dictate where we go from here. But 6,400, obviously, we did not want to lose it, but we were able to kind of recover at least yesterday. And I think that was a win for the bulls, at least for now. There's still going to be some seasonality effect. Volatility generally does kind of inch up around this time, and rightfully so here. So I don't think we're out of the woods by any stretch of the imagination, but a lot of damage has been done to some of these tech stocks for the most part here, and we'll see if they're going to be able to kind of recover. For instance, we talked about Palantir yesterday. It's trading at the 50-day moving average. What's going to be the reaction today? Microsoft trading at the 50-day moving average as well. Are you going to see a bounce there? So there's several different stocks that are testing key areas of support that if you're a bull, you'd like to see them hold and kind of retrace higher.
Okay, so if you're a bull, you want to see them hold those levels. But at the same time, if you're looking for broadening out, how significant is it that we saw in terms of the S&P 500? The gains came in energy, for instance. That's been a laggard year to date. And then some of the gains also in healthcare and financials.
Yeah, so the healthcare sector has been kind of consolidating over the last couple of months, and actually, if you look at the XLV, the healthcare spiders ETF, it is attempting to try to break out to the upside here after this consolidation, and it has been fairly oversold. And obviously, that sector has been kind of hit with a lot of the news headlines as well as trial data and maybe even bad earnings if you're kind of looking at a Lilly for that matter here. So maybe you are starting to get some value players, those that think that healthcare is a little bit oversold, maybe trying to step in here. When you're looking at financials, financials have done a phenomenal job, but if you kind of look under the hood here, regionals are actually holding up fairly well. Even though we had that intraday volatility yesterday, regionals actually did fairly well compared to some of these other sectors. And then you're looking at this rotation into Berkshire Hathaway. So Berk B shares, they have been aggressively oversold here after the announcement of Warren Buffett kind of stepping down as CEO here. And now you are starting to see it actually trying to consolidate and catching some flows here. Berkshire Hathaway is actually a really major component when it comes to the financial sector as a whole. So that value trade is actually kind of pushing up the financials because of that particular component here. And then when you're looking at others like materials and commodities, energy for that matter, very oversold. Oil is trading at around $62, $63 now, and you are trying to see some buyers kind of stepping in at that $61.50, $62-ish area. And you do still have some of the geopolitical headwinds when it comes to the Russia-Ukraine conflict. So a lot has been happening here. Let's see how, once again, this is one of those situations where you let the technicals kind of lead you or guide you instead of trying to make an assumption or a narrative in a market that generally does see volatility at this time. I think that's actually a dangerous thing to do.
Okay, and let's talk about this trade deal or the more details of this fleshed out trade framework. What are some of your takeaways here between the U.S. and EU trade?
Yeah, so what we're seeing as far as the announcement today is just the formalization of those trade talks that we saw a while ago now. It seems like it's still been so long here, but obviously this framework comes with several different components. They do pledge to, the EU pledges to buy around $700 to $750 billion in U.S. energy components. That's liquefied natural gas, oil, as well as oil infrastructure and energy infrastructure projects. Nuclear is also included into that as well, and then invest $600+ billion in the U.S. U.S. For other kind of technologies here. There also is a component where you are going to see a 15% tariff when it comes to aircraft, natural resources, pharmaceuticals, but there is going to be a cap on some of these tariffs. So semiconductors, pharmaceuticals, and lumber are going to be capped at 15%. And from the automotive standpoint, right now we do have a current level of around 15% for those tariffs, but if the EU actually does kind of reduce some of the tariffs, the U.S. has committed to a one-for-one type of reduction, and some U.S. officials are saying that actually could be reduced in a matter of weeks as long as we do see proper legislation kind of being enacted there. So once again, this is a formalization. That's why you're not really seeing a big reaction within the stock market itself. Seems like it's already been priced in, and hopefully we're able to see these frameworks really turn into concrete, solidified deals that not only have the aspirations of government spending on both sides, but also the measures that are put into place as far as accountability. And that's one of the bigger issues that we've seen since Trump 1.0. We have all of these commitments, but nobody's really following up on the accountability measures there. So that will be interesting. Oh, last thing I want to highlight with this as well. The EU is committing to preferential treatment to U.S. agricultural goods, so keep your eye out on that. That's actually a big thing for President Trump, as we have seen some headwinds when it comes to trying to sell grains over in the EU, as well as chicken and poultry, and as well as beef. There's more of a cultural thing that's kind of around that, but it does appear that they're going to potentially be buying more of our agricultural products over the coming years.
Okay, and let's talk about some of the one of the key earnings that we have in focus this morning. Walmart shares under some pressure off of mixed results. Take us through some of your takeaways here, KG.
Yeah, high bar here when you're looking at this report, and it is kind of mixed, but obviously the market's maybe looking more towards the guidance here. You did see revenue coming in at $177.4 billion. Street was looking for around $175.5 billion, so they did beat on the top line, but they did miss when it came to the adjusted earnings per share. That came in at 68 cents. Street was looking for around 73 cents there. Now, when you're looking at comparable sales ex fuel, you did see growth of around 4.6%. On a year-over-year basis, and e-commerce sales continue to skyrocket, and you're seeing that actually grow 25% on a year-over-year basis. But their guidance moving forward, actually, they did raise their fiscal year 2026 net sales growth guidance up, as well as the adjusted earnings per share guidance for the fiscal year as well. So once again, kind of a mixed report. They are saying the consumer is still strong, but they did mention that tariffs are having a little bit of an impact, and they are trying to spread prices around in specific products, if you will. So it's not a raising prices on everything type of situation. They're looking at specific goods in order to try to pass on some of those costs, and then they're also eating in to some of their margins as well in order to try to avoid a rapid price increase on the consumer, which could also dampen demand.
Yeah, it looks like they are playing the balancing act with regard to tariffs. That was something I noticed as well. All right, Boeing shares, those higher right now. Looks like there's some reports related to China and some sales there. What are the details here, KG?
Yeah, so the report is that Boeing is in advanced talks in order to sell China up to 500 aircraft here. Now, this does appear that it's going to be tied to a broader China-U.S. trade deal, so we have to be mindful of that. This doesn't seem like this is going to be just independent on Boeing and China alone here. So this is actually kind of a big deal. We have seen a slowing, actually, of imports of exports of aircraft over to China. Obviously, some of that has been Boeing-specific because of the quality of the aircraft. Some questions around the 737 MAX and things of that nature here. We have seen Airbus actually eat into some of that market share, but this could be a huge tailwind when it comes to Boeing's sales just in general here, and there's a little bit more optimism that maybe if we are able to come up with a trade deal with China, that we could see the China sales for Boeing actually rapidly increase, and that could actually be a tailwind for the stock. So you're seeing some optimism there around this name, and let's see how this actually progresses. Unfortunately, once again, this is going to be tied to, according to the report, a broader China-U.S. trade deal. So if we do maybe see some friction for whatever reason, this could also be put on pause here. So cautiously optimistic around these sales for Boeing, and hopefully we do see a deal come to fruition here over the coming months.
All right. Thank you, KG. That's our Kevin Green, Senior Markets Correspondent. Appreciate that.